Okay, welcome everybody to the Open Source Frontiers podcast, episode 4. I am here with one of the greats, Yoram Ben-Zvi. Yoram, you have been in the Cardano space probably longer than I have. I've seen you in multiple different projects and different initiatives. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Perfect. Thank you. Pleasure being here. My background comes from technology entrepreneurship for many years. And about 8 years ago, I left my comfort zone. I managed a respected company in the B2B hospitality industry. And I left my comfort zone to join a non-for-profit, revenue-generating non-for-profit that works on
Hmm,
agriculture supply chains. On one side with 100 multinationals like Nestle and others, but on the ground. And I spend a
yeah,
lot of time actually on the ground in Indonesia, working with farmers, and my role was how I can help to scale impact through business. And I spent there 2 years, mostly volunteering, and then I said, okay, to scale impact, you need the blockchain and unique technology. So I started to look into blockchain and satellites, and my mind was blown away. Started to follow Charles and all the vision and Cardano and the technology, and I said, okay, this is my home. And since I'm active on Cardano. So what I did in the last 6 years, basically, I'm within a couple of projects that I'm partner of, Andamio and Sundial and other, but my role is always how can we onboard enterprises to the ecosystem? And how can we use
yeah.
this incredible technology to onboard enterprises? So I spend a lot of time to speak with enterprises, understand their needs, and see how to onboard them. And through the years, also, we did several use cases and tests with satellite and agriculture and other projects with agriculture. Until in Fund 13, we did a big project with Syngenta, a multinational corporation, about satellite oracle on Cardano, and that's what brought us to 5 a.m. So kind of it's a big intro.
Oh, no kidding. Well, as you were exploring Web3, was Cardano the first ecosystem you came across, or were there others that you looked at too?
I started to look on other ecosystems, but I mean, I very fast, for me, it was not about the technology, it's about kind of what the technology is trying to achieve.
Yeah,
Right? And so obviously I found very fast home in Cardano, met incredible people, and the goal was from day one is how we can use this technology to basically disrupt industries that are not efficient today. So that's
yeah.
the question. And yeah.
Well, and then you had even outlined, I want to, sorry, my little tech piece with satellites and blockchain technology. How did you see those two intertwining together?
I mean, this idea came actually quite early on because today one of the challenges with satellite technology, if you go dive, is that it's very expensive.
Mhm.
So a lot of projects work on silos. They get a satellite technology, and it's quite expensive then to do the projects. So if we can democratize actually this information and put relevant information on chain and can use it to multiple business use cases, it actually makes sense to put it on the blockchain, right? So you have one truth that you keep, and you can connect to business applications. So that was the idea behind that, and we were trying to see how we do it, especially for small farm holders, right? That doesn't have the funding to do big satellite projects. So that's kind of was the motivation around that, if it makes
I
sense.
gotcha. And that's coalesced into, can you explain 5 a.m.?
Yeah,
Sorry,
and by
it's,
the way, it's an open source. So the satellite oracle that Anastasia Lab built, which Phil is actually a fully open source on Cardano. So that's for that also additional info. So 5 a.m. First of all, why 5 a.m.? Because the farmers are waking up at 5 a.m., right? So the farmers that produce our food and serve all of us are 5 a.m. and waking up at 5 a.m. to work in the field. And it's actually a huge market. It's 500 million small farm holders around the world, representing over a billion people and families that work on the field and produce our food. But the thing is that it's very decentralized ecosystem, not on-chain, but decentralized off-chain ecosystem of small farm holders that work in silos. And there are two big problems there. One, the problem of information coming from the ground to the market is very high because it's very tough to consolidate that. And second, because of that, the services they get is very high. So if you look on finance, insurance, traceability, every project that aims to get to a lot of farmers, it's just very costly for them to get them, right? So we said if we build a trust layer of information, that we focus only on the trust layer, and we put it on chain with legal compliance and identities and wallet infrastructure, we can actually connect to many business applications and make them much more efficient. So that's really what we want to do. And through the connection and more efficient, we can actually reduce the cost of money to the ground. So if we look on microfinance, we want to reduce the cost of finance to the farmers. And we can do that through having this approach, 5am design, basically.
No, my wife's from India, so I've had the chance to visit quite a few times, and I know that is a big market on the rural agriculture side. I mean, you can see as many Bollywood movies where it's always the hero comes from a background like that and rises to greatness or whatnot. But I think that's a awesome thing to connect that back to how blockchain actually enables eligibility and things like that, and offloads cost, especially with upfront things.
Yeah. So I didn't know your
Okay.
wife is from India. That's great, and so you know a little bit the feeling there. I think what we are extremely fortunate in 5am is that we found the right partners, right? We sit behind computer and design technology behind computer, but to get to the ground, you need to have the right partners. And one of our partners on the ground is Syngenta Foundation India, and they build a model called agri-entrepreneurs, which is basically local villagers that they train over a period of 2 years and support them to become local entrepreneurs. Each entrepreneur supports 100 to 150 farmers. But the cool thing there is that this program is financed by big brands, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, that spends a lot of money, much more than this proposal is, in order to basically train and prepare these villagers to become agri-entrepreneurs. And what they managed to do is they managed to do it at scale. So they already work with 3 million farmers and 26 agri-entrepreneurs. And that's incredible for us because we can plug in our technology into this network and actually onboard them to Cardano in a way that otherwise will be extremely expensive and difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, and it's building existing partnerships and bringing in nonprofit partners as well. Well, what was the original thesis for Cardano? Banking the unbanked, kind of reaching markets where they've never been. Like, it's a 1-for-1, in my opinion.
So we are doing it. We are really doing why we came here for and why this channel was there. So we are doing it, but we are doing it also with a way that makes sense economically. So financially, the money is there. The money in microfinance is there, but just the people that make the money is the banks, and we don't understand the impact on the ground, right? Or traceability, or carbon. It's all multi-billion-dollar markets, but the fund is not being distributed correctly. So through a trust layer, we believe we are able to channel much more fund directly with lower costs and actually make very successful business use cases.
Yeah. Well, for those watching, if you're here at this point, I definitely, I think there's 20 some hours or less on the 5am proposal. So definitely keep a track on the project and stuff like that and go vote any D-reps that are participating that way. But this is one I think the Cardano ecosystem definitely needs. But even to that point, Yoram, you're even involved in more things. I kind of wanted to go more into your background because I met you through when we were doing the commercialization working group, trying to do things like this for Cardano and Intersect in the early days. It didn't take much root just because of the different interests at the time with budget processes and everything else. But you brought a big wealth of understanding about gaps within the Cardano adoption market. And I didn't know if you had some good insights to relay related to that and where you think the ecosystem can fill those gaps.
Yeah, so I think actually Cardano is really well positioned to go into the enterprise market. And when we speak about enterprise adoption market, it doesn't mean we exclude DeFi. For me, DeFi is always part of everything we do, right? Almost everything we will choose, we will do. So the challenge is why, at the same time, not the challenge, but at the same time, the question is how we build the business frameworks actually achieve these goals. And
Yeah.
so this year I joined the growth and marketing committee and the product committee to try and contribute there and see how can we build this business framework. And I think a couple of things that we are missing or can do better, and Charles actually spoke about it in one of his recent videos, is about the narrative. What is the narrative we are focusing on? And I think here is definitely we need to kind of identify specific narrative that we want to focus on as an ecosystem and kind of promote. So Bitcoin DeFi is kind of an obvious one, right? That's kind of a vertical that is an obvious. Governance, government kind of tooling could be another one, just because Cardano built so many and so much experience about it. Good experiences and things that we need to improve. Obviously, 5 a.m. and kind of agriculture supply chain is another big one that we can disrupt. So each vertical like this, if we start thinking in terms of verticals, we can start saying, okay, how we build a solution that disrupt this industry? How we then bring together the right Cardano infrastructure technology, the right Cardano applications, how we find the right partners, like we found in 5 a.m., the World Bank, Syngenta, Seedstars, to join us, and how we build a clear path to market. It's not enough to say it's a big market of 500 million farmers or billions of dollars. We need to have kind of a clear path with KPIs and projections. So that's kind of one big thing that I think we need to improve as an ecosystem. The second thing that I will recommend is there's a lot of leads coming to Cardano, but where do they go? Recently we got, somehow people get to me, so we had some big Japanese corporates, and so where do they go, right? So, and how do you onboard them? It's not just the lead itself is not enough. We need to have a process where we actually follow this lead and support them and onboard them to the ecosystem, find them the right solution, work with them on the right business model. And that's the second. And the third, I believe that we need to have a business task force. Just like Lepend did for infrastructure, we need it for business, because when you deal with these big corporates, not everything can go public, right? You need to close a deal and make a win-win agreement, and not everything can be always public. We need obviously to report to the public and be responsible for the ecosystem, but some of the deals need to be, behind the scenes. And we already kind of missed some of these big opportunities that will put us today in a different place, but we are still there to get these opportunities. And we just need a little bit, again, to focus on these three areas and coordinate around them. And I think we'll do extremely well. And there are multiple teams that are working on different verticals, right? I mean, like we have the Bitcoin DeFi, obviously, multiple great teams. Patrick, what he's doing with AI, Trivial Tech, the guys in India doing an extraordinary job there. I mean, there's multiple teams in different, Cash Anvil, with this initiative. So there's really many teams working on that. We just need to put it down. Yeah.
I'm with you. It's everyone's tackling stuff. I think the thing we could do better is knowing who's doing what, so we're not being over repetitive. Gosh, just the amount of, like what you're saying with governance infrastructure, I don't know how many governance tools we have that we're doing the same thing per se. But I do agree with you, especially when it goes to needing a go-to-market function, especially with connecting business things. And I think another lesson for at least our community is transparency within sense, what makes sense. We did have an opportunity with Microsoft a couple years back when Intersect first launched. They were looking at replacing a Web3 partner that had been deprecated for their internal billing systems, and we had ran into a guy at Consensus trying to connect the dots with Tweeg to actually try and get that built out, but our guy wasn't a high enough decision maker, and other names like Solana and Polkadot kind of infiltrated that, and I think one of those two closed that deal. But it's all about getting the right people in the right room and then chasing that trail to end and land the deal.
100%. And again, I was, at least myself and some other people were involved in a deal that we could have bring on board millions of people to the ecosystem, but we need also to give upside if the positive things are happening, right? It's not even upfront, really. But how do you negotiate something like this on Cardano? With who you negotiate, right? So you bring the different players in the different ecosystem, and everyone wants to help, and everyone is, wants to be there, but there's no framework to deal with that.
Yeah. So 100%. Last week I got to be get to see how a lot of ecosystems with the ETHCon and then Filecoin had their own dev summit going on, but I got to witness like how other ecosystems are pioneering this go-to-market function. And I kid you not, some ecosystems have pivoted around two or three core products, and then the derivatives off of that. And the teams are all focused on bringing in Silicon Valley product people to do this go-to-market launch to acquire adoption. Because even at the smaller chains like Stellar, they have their complete use case. They know who they're going after. They have the pilots in progress. Avalanche is already doing, depending on where you see how their success is going on, but at least we're talking about doing car registrations in California on chain, like actual viable things with government
Yeah.
adoption.
This is what I mentioned before. We need some kind of a narrative or vertical. I call it vertical approach.
Yeah.
Where we define the vertical. Once you know what's your vertical, whatever it is, okay, and it's easier to bring the relevant people, experts from outside, and to build the right technology, and then have a clear go-to-market. And some of the chains are doing it, and some of them are doing it extremely well. But I think Cardano have a lot of advantages in terms of the technology, the infrastructure that we have, the stability. So we just need, just a better coordination now, and we will get there very fast.
Well, one, you were talking about Bitcoin DeFi, and I'm kind of jealous that you get to work with him on a daily basis with Mr. Sheldon Hunt. Why don't you help explain what's going on there? Because I met Sheldon's first onboarding when we were doing Intersect and everything. Then he went to Emergo, and then now he's launched Sundial.
Yeah, so Sheldon, I met him first again when we worked on this big deal a couple of 3 years ago. So Sheldon was one of the person in the ecosystem that was extremely generous with his time and said, okay, let's do it. And he was at Imago that time, and we really was extremely supportive. So we stayed in contact, and when we shared with me his vision about Bitcoin DeFi, I said, I mean, we can definitely bring business here. Like I can see how we can bring the institution into Cardano through that. So really, we fell in love with the idea, fell in love with Sheldon, extremely great entrepreneur and leader. He brought very, very good team around him, and we go forward. I mean, it's obviously we are progressing very well. We could have, as an ecosystem, I think if we did things as an ecosystem, we could have progressed faster, right? Because not everything depends on Sundial. But I believe we are in good spot. We are working very with modest budget, but we are progressing very well. We are going to launch a couple of products to the market very soon, start generating revenue. Very focused as again, enterprise, go to market, generate revenues for an area which I think can be extremely attractive for Cardano. And I think as we go live, I'm confident already from discussions we had, we can bring the Bitcoin to Cardano. We can bring institution Bitcoin to Cardano, but technology have to be there first.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I think Bitcoin and Ethereum have a big thing ahead of them, especially because I think it was France that gave a 2027 deadline. Otherwise, they're going to start putting laws against non-quantum safe chains. So I'm interested to see how that's going because we are doing already the quantum discovery within Cardano and the research budget. So it'll be a good home for people in a couple of years, I think, for sure.
But Sheldon is great. I mean, Sheldon and the team, I mean, he managed to be an extraordinary team, working hard, not a lot of noise. And I think Cardano will see a lot of good stuff coming out from there.
Yeah. So, which remind me to share with you the leprechaun photo of Sheldon if you haven't seen it. He hates it, but I share it with everyone.
Yeah, I have some funny photos of Sheldon, but I'm not allowed to share them. So
I don't have any NDA with him. So.
Yeah.
Well, even to that, so you did hit narratives, verticals, building a consortium. If you were given the necessary budget, how would you go about working with people in the ecosystem to kind of build this kind of function? Just so we kind of have like a roadmap of next steps, because I may even quite serious about trying to set this up myself. But but I'm not a big go-to-market person. I'm just the open source guy.
No, so it's perfect. I think, it's things that we are doing already without budget. So first of all, anyone that needs support, I mean, the last years, anyone that have idea or needs support or brainstorm or work or get leads, happy to help, again, and we don't need budget for that. But I think we need to start doing things in a more organized way. And if the vertical approach is the right one, we need to have a vertical lead, right? That kind of start analyzing the vertical, start bringing together the right companies operating. We are not speaking about competition now. It's too early. I mean, we don't even bring let me give you a good example that I like to share. Like if you had only one theater in Broadway, would everyone go to Broadway to see theater shows? No, I mean, because you have 20 or 30 theaters, right, that are doing the shows, that became Broadway show. So if you want Bitcoin DeFi, Cardano to become the Bitcoin DeFi narrative or any other vertical, we need to collaborate together between us and then onboarding the external world to Cardano. So that's kind of, I think we need to start doing it in a more organized way as a vertical approach and start having a more defined go-to-market.
That actually resonates with me, because I think Web3 puts it in a different environment, especially when you're building within a country. You're very much focused on your local and federal level economics, but Web3 actually from day one puts you in kind of this internationalization scale where anyone can involve and interact, and most people are still thinking local competition, local differentiators, rather than thinking you have competition across different ecosystems as well if you're targeting one sector market.
Yeah, and it's also blockchain in general need to work more together in order to onboard enterprises, right?
Yeah.
And then
Cardano, and then there's that factor too, yeah.
And then Cardano, and then work on legal compliance, a lot of these important things. And then obviously Cardano needs to do it because Cardano is well positioned for enterprise adoption because of the way the network is built, because of security, because of stability, because of deterministic prices and all of that. So, I mean, we're really well positioned. We just now need to put the frameworks in place and support the onboarding of these enterprises.
100%. Well, if you're talking risk compliance or risk mitigation stuff, Cardano's like number one in that theater. It's just that onboarding journey. Trying to explain to someone why they need a wallet and stuff like that's the wrong narrative to go after an enterprise. So
yeah, and then you build the right strategy. I mean, one of the companies we onboarded to Cardano is Checkpoint, for example, right? So this Checkpoint is one of the biggest cybersecurity company in the world. They invented the firewall. And the reason we wanted to onboard them is because they give us the compliance we need for their clients, which is all the Fortune 500 companies, basically. All the financial institutions are using Checkpoint off-chain. So if they can say that Cardano is secure as well, we kind of tick the box, right, for that. So I think that's the next phase of adoption will come from there, legal compliance, security compliance, and then a very clear use case that brings value, financial value to the enterprise. And then I think, but that's the next wave, in my view.
100%. We need all those acronym letters behind us certifying different levels.
And if you may, I go back to 5 a.m. because the 5 a.m., I mean, in terms of it's kind of a vertical approach because exactly that, because we have many Cardano companies involved there, right? It's AI Quant, Anastasia Lab that built the satellite oracle, Zengate, Andamio, and this is just the beginning. As we grow the number of farmers at the center, every Cardano application can plug in. So this is kind of what we call a vertical approach. It's not one company. It's Cardano.
Well, and that's what I like. Is the other thing too is it gives that data sovereignty. But if I remember correctly, you'd also mentioned that this also does like credentialing for the farmers and stuff, like, right? What was it? Was it web?
Yeah. Actually, it's extremely important. It's extremely important because, so I mentioned before the network of agri-entrepreneurs, right? The big network of agri-entrepreneurs. So this network, through the application that we have, they're actually learning something. So they learn about the satellite oracle. Then they support the farmer by creating the field border, or they're doing something. So behind that, we have Andamio that actually track all of that, track what they learned and track what they do, and they start building their reputation for these agri-entrepreneurs. Now, if we want to start connecting it to finance, so we have SeedStars, which is a leading finance structuring company. They teach the agri-entrepreneur about the financing that they want to provide. Then the agri-entrepreneur actually provide the finance to the farmer, so SeedStars loans. And then when they pay back, all of that goes into the reputation of the agri-entrepreneurs, and actually it becomes a stronger business. So behind that, we have Andamio that is actually recording all the information and building this reputation. So you can see how multiple applications come together to provide a solution that makes sense and make microfinance more efficient, reducing the cost of microfinance that benefits everyone, the farmers and microfinance.
Yeah. Well, and you have multiple agents and tools verifying every single step, so there's none of this like fluff added to it. Everyone has their own self-interests coming into it to fulfill a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
I think that ties in perfectly to the verticals that you're talking about. 100%.
Yeah, and this is why we designed 5AM as a non-for-profit revenue-generating foundation, because 5AM have to stay neutral, right? Because if we want to onboard tens of millions of farmers, we have to stay neutral. So, and where the money is being made is the business application that can connect. As the number of users and farmers grow to 500,000, 1 million, 10 million, then you can see how you can easily connect different applications. You want to connect peer-to-peer lending. Yeah, we have the infrastructure. You want insurance, carbon, everything, because you already have the user base. And that's really the idea behind that. And then they pay a small fee for the foundation for the content, and that creates the foundation self-sustain by itself.
Yeah, multiple self-sustaining cycles built within it.
Exactly.
100%. Well, and even Andamio is a good case in that point, because they just run the protocol and the software and stuff like that, but they don't own. It's an open source protocol that people can take and build and stuff that way. So
yeah,
decentralized ecosystem.
Yeah, Andamio is an incredible partner here, and working on a couple of other very, very big projects with them. In general, reputation in Web3
Well,
is important.
I'm trying to use them on the open source side of stuff. I'm trying to build the gathering that way, but I mean, their system perfectly tracks contribution to merit, like a Credly type thing. Port that to GitHub credentials and other stuff, and you can actually build an open source reputation profile for what you, rather than just a GitHub ID that one company controls.
Perfect. And very soon, actually, there will be kind of outside, we'll take it out. They are working with a very, very big brand. The team of Andamio is doing an extraordinary job. And I think something is going to be extremely interesting and beneficial for Cardano when a big brand is actually going to use it as an infrastructure for their engagement with their users. Without anyone knowing they're using blockchain, all the reputation and engagement is going to be based on Andamio.
Well, and I think that's another thing when you're talking about narratives too. From what I've been seeing in the markets, Web3 first is not necessarily the way to adoption. It's mostly the back-end management. And once, at least my envisioning is once 5-10 years, once people start realizing they've been using it anyway, then it'll become more acceptable to have that Web3 first narrative.
100%. So again, going back to 5AM, so the way we build the infrastructure today is that the farmers, we build it in stages. So the wallet infrastructure is already there, and the DID infrastructure is already there. But we don't have to give everything to the farmers in day one, right? We need to build the interfaces that make sense for them, and that they can, and then they can actually then use it in a better way. And we already saw and checked some applications also in Cardano that actually do stable coin to local currencies, for example, in a very easy way. So you can have both, so this is this is really the application that will make sense then for any user to use basically the technology without knowing even they're using the technology. And for that also we brought a very, very experienced UI UX manager. You have 30 years experience, and among the product that he did was Waze, if anyone remember Waze.
Yeah.
So he is one of the first designers of Waze, and tens of years of experience since then, because we need to think users and not infrastructure.
100%.
So
Well,
yeah.
and to that point too, so through 5 a.m., the actual use cases that are built into this one process is you do have credentialing, access to finance, the satellite technology when it comes to mapping, and then onboarding of farmers. You hit like 7 more, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No. Go
Yeah,
again.
like the actual. So I'm trying to map this to the actual needs of the farmer, and what you're actually running them through and giving them skills in specifically.
Yeah. So for the farmer, the main thing is how we collect the information and then distribute it to many applications and services. So
Mhm.
a lot of the things are already happening today in the market, right? We are not inventing anything. So the lending is already happening, or carbon markets is already kind of active, certification is active, insurance and so on. But it just happened in a very high cost. And so we are basically focusing on the trust layer of information to make all of this more efficient. And for that, we build the necessary technology. Again, the farmer doesn't know about all these technologies. Right? The farmer just knows he's getting a better application that he can use. So we have oracles, obviously, we have transparency, traceability, digital identities, the traceability that Zengate provide, which is very important for European compliance today. And we can see privacy will be part of it, obviously. It will be important for legal compliance. So we can see many different services then connecting in their business application that we don't even think about. Like people contact me today, can we offer it in other locations? For other use cases. There's another one, we want to connect logistic and transportation for the data. I mean, all of them will be able to build application very easily on top of that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, speaking of, I do have a project to run by you after this that I am building, and I already got a potential investor on board that does the same thing, but addresses a very specific market in the U.S. Anyway, that's that little plug in there.
Anytime, yeah.
Yeah. So that hits a bunch of that stuff. If you're okay with it, I did want to bring it back towards Web3 governance and stuff from that business perspective, and kind of get your insights as to possible improvement areas. So for those who may not be caught up, Cardano has gone through 2 years of a governance cycle where we kind of have a remake of the US government, is the best way I can put it together, where you have a legislative body, kind of policy setting body, and then constitutional committee, just to make sure everything stays within the framework originally. So SPOs, which are the infra, designated representatives, and constitutional committee. Sorry, that was a very butchered explanation. But each one has separate parameters, and there's governance actions, and anyone who holds ADA can put something on chain and vote, etc. Now the Treasury has gone through, I think we funded 260 million USD equivalent last year towards different initiatives. And then this year has been an interesting one because we already have a bull market or a bear market. ADA prices down, and a lot of the stuff went towards infra and stuff like that. And so there's been a lot of calls for, is this the right approach? How should we handle things? There is the call to have a more central focus while still keeping decentralized emphasis, because there's the lack of experts necessarily to review things. So I was curious how you've read the environment. I'm not proposing any one solution. I just like collecting the ideas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, again, Cardano, it's incredible the process we did in the last few years. I mean, and where we got with the governance. It's really incredible, and the engagement of all the ecosystem is incredible. I think sometimes we tend to look on things as black and white, and I don't think, and not everything is black and not everything is white. I think we did incredible stuff, and we need now to improve it to the next level based on learning. If we look on the budget process, what you mentioned, I think it's extremely pity that we didn't have a budget framework that kind of define and help the DRAPs to make better decisions. Like, is it good to finance only infrastructure? Maybe, but normally I think that you should have kind of a different budget framework that have categories and priorities, and then the DRAPs can make a decision. So again, I think it's incredible. Now we are in a point where there is a little bit, a lot of emotions around that, and I'm trying. And I think not, again, it's not black or white. I think we need to solve something, but I don't think we radically need to change everything. That's kind of the sentiment. But I mean, I'm trying to focus my time and efforts where I can contribute to the ecosystem, which is in the enterprise adoption. Governance was always important and interesting, but I've kind of always stayed beside that and tried to focus on how can I help. I think definitely decentralized governance is a good pitch to enterprises that wants to come on board. But it's also very, like I see now with the needing to promote the proposal to all the DRAP. It's a lot of work for the DRAP, for the proposal. Like, there's a lot of work around that we can make more efficient and better through more mechanism and through better categorization, like budget framework, for example. So again, I think the bear market hits, is down, but there's so many good stuff in Cardano that if we channel energy there, I think we can be very fast in a different position.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know I'm a little bit more on the emotional side because I was involved with so many things, so I had so many high hopes of different stuff. But overall, I still give the Cardano governance like a C plus or a B for its first time around. We avoided the polka dot mistakes of spending everything on nothing. And then we've instituted guardrails and things, at least, that we know are the pain points and how to improve stuff. So I do think, especially on enterprise adoption, if you remember my whole paid open source model thing, like open source sustainability is the big thing that I am trying to get as a narrative for Cardano, but it requires the right angles and mechanisms to ensure that succeeds, but it doesn't succeed unless enterprise adoption is reached. So I'm just trying to build that the infra is a risk mitigated factor for enterprises that come to build on top of it, but we have to hit that those different verticals and different selling points, like you're saying.
I think the challenge is probably to find a balance between fully decentralized environment and some functions that actually can bring stuff together. Like in the business adoption side, we need the business task force. I mean, not everything can be decentralized, right? If we want to close the deal. So that's the balance between them. But still, we need to be accountable for the ecosystem with the decision being made. So this balance need to be is the next phase probably. We try to kind of fully decentralize everything, and now going back to balance between them.
Well, and that's because I think it was Ben O'Hanlon. Everyone knows Ben somehow. But we were going through the circle because he was someone who I consulted with. And when it came to commercial adoption, we were missing 3 critical pieces, which was having an ecosystem map of what's there, what's available, what markets they're in, market research to begin with, so we know what verticals we should be targeting. And then having the business alliance use cases to actually integrate multiple supplier-based things. But 5 a.m. is kind of hitting all 3 of those at once, which I think is what makes it a perfect commercial adoption thing. Because you have your 3 target markets typically, which is your venture capitalists to invest and help it scale businesses that way, clients with money who have a particular need, and then tech innovation that is already put to a use case people are willing to pay for. And 5 a.m. actually like fulfills that entire thing, which will drive revenue back to treasury over time, and then self-sustaining cycle kind of thing.
I mean, for me, it's I see it obvious. I'm trying to see how to explain it better to the ecosystem, because somehow some part of the ecosystem doesn't see that. Some of the DRAPs, we get incredible support, but some of them.
I'll drop.
Yeah.
I'll drop a link in the chat. If you want to look at it,
Yeah.
you can Sorry, I go back to this. I'm dropping this right here because this is what helps explain how this fulfills itself. Ignore everything on the left. Everything on the left is my idea towards open source sustainability, etc. Is that whole paid open source model, but this is where businesses, commercial adoption, these three supporting pillars goes to the treasury. Treasury re-emphasizes stuff, building that sustaining cycle. I think that's the imagery we're trying to get. We need to figure out this piece right here, which is currently missing in Cardano massively.
Yeah, and this is where I'm focusing on a lot of my time. We just need to coordinate between them better.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I had to throw that little plug in there.
No, that's good. That's good. It's great.
Well, so we've hit decentralized governance, 5 a.m., actual verticals, use cases, enterprise adoption. What do you think are the biggest blockers to people wanting to come to Web3 that you've encountered?
I think, before it was the infrastructure and technology. Like if we tried to do things like 4 or 5 years ago, it was too late, right? And too early. So now I think it's really awareness and dive into the right business models. In a certain point of time, a lot of enterprise came for sponsorship, right? It's a sport because there was a lot of money in crypto. Everyone say, pay me money and we'll join and so on. But leave that aside, is really now the enterprises we are talking with, and we are starting to get a lot of incoming calls from enterprises, is how this can impact their business and impact their users or impact their fans or impact their clients. So I think just like the internet came in the beginning, and kind of in the beginning, no one knows how this will bring value. I mean, let me share a small anecdote. I studied at Cornell, and one of my professors was an advisor for Reagan administration, financial advisor, and he was a big finance guy. And when the internet started, he said, I don't see why people will use the internet. I don't see why people will put, credit cards on the internet, right? Everything will fall and so on. And then when the market fell, he said, you saw, I told you it will fall. But we know where is the internet today, right? So I think blockchain will go through the same course because the technology eventually brings value to users and to companies. And we are in this phase where we start seeing this adoption. And again, what we do with 5 a.m., we have multi-billion-dollar companies involved, like Syngenta, not because just they like me or they like 5 a.m., because they believe they will make more money through it eventually.
Yeah.
So how do you make these companies start dedicating resources and teams and finance actually to work on that? Because they see the value that will come from this technology. So so I'm extremely positive that we are in the beginning of this phase. And again, I think Cardano is well positioned to be an important part of that. So I'm taking out the noise. I'm extremely positive. But I'm not saying it's not a tough time now. It's a very challenging time now for the ecosystem and community and the price. But I think we are not that far from actually making a different curve.
Well, even to what you're saying, this goes back to even things I learned in Intersect is before budget and treasury was a thing, most committees forgot that they were a committee before money was involved. Like it was very much come together and get initiatives going. We did that with the open source committee, even had a strategy and things we were executing against. Mind you, there's dedicated staff at Intersect to help carry it out. But then we got budget, and then we started amplifying what we were doing. But if your whole goal is you need finance first to actually do something, it's maybe the wrong angle to look at it. Whereas get the things scoped out and then put it together, and then all the seeds along the way. So I think our whole focus on decentralized governance and we need the treasury for everything isn't the right mindset. It's kind of like find the opportunities and then figure out how we can capitalize that waste on the assets we have. So I actually want to share your viewpoint on that. It's like, let's do stuff. Cardano is still built this way. You don't need permission to take it up and run it. You don't necessarily require the whole governance process to do it. It's here to help enable and further the things we have going. So
I think the only thing I will say for that, and this is where the narrative is actually extremely important. I mean, when we joined Cardano 5-6 years ago, and before or after, it was so amazing. Like the first few years for me, it was mind-blowing amazing. And I spent, I mean, I didn't care about any, we just, we created Cardano for Climate in the beginning, and there was 300 community members there, and we just spent all our time there because we believed in, what Cardano brings and want to achieve. And I think somehow, with bear market and so on, we kind of losing the narrative of why we are here and what we want to achieve, and we are not working in a coordinated way. And this is what 5am actually, I feel, bring it to a lot of community members, is we bring that is why we are here and what we are trying to achieve. And then obviously financial compensation is important, but our time is also important. And we want to spend it on things that bring value and that we believe in. And that's kind of, this is why I think this is a little bit now the shaking of the ecosystem, that kind of, we don't know where it's going a little bit. And we need to bring that back.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to capitalize on that is you already thought about where every dollar is going to go for the highest ROI. It wasn't just you thought about this and then threw it up on chain, and you couldn't act without it. And that's the mindset difference. With or without it, you're going to march one way or another. It's just,
I think also in the beginning, infrastructure was kind of obvious that we need the infrastructure. So everything was exciting. Every new period of Cardano was extremely exciting and so on. But now, okay, it's time together with the infrastructure to bring the users and to bring the business case.
Yeah.
And that's kind of also a conflict point. Not conflict, but things that we need to do better.
Yeah, well, and even on exploring other chains financing, we did look at the estimated budget spend that chains put towards different verticals per se, or like different buckets, for lack of a better word. And I think infra starts off at like 75% and then tailors towards 30 to 40% as the builders kind of centralize that way. And then go to market is somewhere between 20 to 30%. And then you actually have business cases and things built off of that with the remainder. And I think Cardano currently is like 90% infra, if not more. So we only got 10% to cut up into everything else. But I do think we can fit in a bucket for open source tooling, infra, business development, go-to-market, and governance, minor portions related to that. But I'm optimistic for the future. I don't think Cardano is, even if we blow the treasury, I don't think Cardano's dead. Like, we're all still here even before it existed. So
no,
it's just
we did. There was incredible work, through the years for the infrastructure and technology. So that's a huge advantage. But it's not enough, right? Now we need also the other part. So Cardano will not be dead. Then
we're just in the burnout phase because governance was a lot all at once. That's
and I think again, as I mentioned several times, we can change it quite fast. And then the narrative will change quite fast. Investors will flow in again.
The fact that we even got a amendment to the Constitution passed not too long ago it blew my mind, because I thought no one would ever change the MVP. So, but I think we're coming up on time. So one thing I'm going to ask you, Yoram, what is one thing you're willing to share that no one has asked or knows about you?
Oh, that's tough one, because normally I'm a very private person, so I don't like to go on X. I'm not. So I was very shy to start being on X more and share my information, but I kind of had to do it. But normally I'm quite private person. I'm
fun fact, like hobby that you do, maybe?
I mean, my house, we speak about open source, so my house is an open house. Okay, so I have, that's interesting. I mean, I always have people sleeping over. Always, we're lucky to have, a nice house with a nice garden, and it's open house. So every time, we have all people even that we don't know, and whenever there is, it's kind of an open house. So and it's a lot of fun, and we love it. So yeah, and very international. So my wife and myself from different origins. I speak 5 languages. Yeah, so it's really.
I even thought you were a digital nomad at one point because I know I've seen you in multiple places.
So actually, that's interesting. That's fun fact. We're going to become a digital nomads in the sense that my youngest is now finishing school. He had today the last exam in school, so he's 18. And basically, my wife and myself, we are free as we finish the obligatory task with the kids, and we are basically planning to travel around in the next few years. And
Well,
yeah,
Sheldon is a great mentor on this because he literally is a digital nomad, so he can tell you everything.
Sheldon, yeah, I follow Sheldon, but yeah, I mean, I don't need anything. I just need computer, and then it's nothing better is like to meet people you work with in person and spend some time with them, not
Yeah,
just come
100%.
for 1 day or 2 days, but spend time with them. I have another nice fun fact for you, just to, I mean, it's to get in log on that, but when we did a governance workshop, actually, we did it over 4 days, not 1 hour, not 1 day. And we invited people over here, and Yuri came from Hong Kong, and Felix and Nori, and a lot of people came here, and we spent several days together to get to know each other and speak about governance over time. And we even had 1 day about other governance ecosystem. We had someone from Polkadot coming over, sharing their experience about governance. And then in the last day, we had the governance workshop of Cardano. So that's a good, I think, way to show how I like to live and share and spend time with.
100%. Well, and I'll definitely let you know if I'm in the area sometime soon. Because now that the baby is old enough to at least travel safely, we're going to be visiting a few places.
Yeah.
Fun fact about me, because just to be equal, so you might think of the brand of a cowboy means they're associated with many different cowboy things, but actually cowboys only specialize usually in one of many skill sets. So Tex is the barbecue connoisseur. So if you want to know good meats and stuff like that, he's the person to talk to. He actually embarrassed the Rare Evo team because they brought him over for barbecue, and the barbecue they had bought was very like low quality, so Tex ate into him for it, and then we took him to a better place after that. But I'm the cowboy, so if you want to know anything about raising trucks, racing them in the desert, I'm your guy.
Perfect. Amazing. Good. I will remember that. That's a fun one.
But yeah, thank you for joining. I've been wanting to get you on a podcast for a while, just to deep dive into this go-to-market, because that's now my fixation. I already figured out how we do open source sustainability. I need to figure out the other piece of that puzzle. So I'm planning on working with you towards this topic, and Chris Kowalski and a few others to actually get this set up for Cardano.
Chris is great. Anytime, just ping me, and happy to work on that and support,
Yeah.
and let's do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to take a look at the 5 a.m. proposal. I'll have it linked in, and then as well as details of Yoram, if y'all want to reach out and stuff like that. He does have an open house policy, so
come over. Many Cardano people already slept here, probably, I don't know how many, but many, 20, 30, easy, if not more. So
no kidding. Well, thank you, Yoram. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.